to another video. So, a little bit different this week, a little bit different. We're not necessarily talking about video games, though there is one, so that's all good. This time we're actually talking about my time with the Fighting Fantasy series. If you don't know what Fighting Fantasy is, they're kind of the definitive choose-your-own-adventure books. They're a huge inspiration on a project I'm doing at the moment for someone, which I can't go into because, well, whilst there's no NDA, it's kind of... Not yet. I will be talking about it eventually, but not right now. They're very good. They're very, very cool. I had a buttload of these when I was younger, and I've recently been kind of getting back into them. It kind of started really with... Where is it? Where has it gone? Here we go. The original Starship Traveller by Steve Jackson. So, Fighting Fantasy is a series of choose-your-own-adventure books by Ian Livingstone, who is the guy who brought Games Workshop to the UK, I think, and had a hand in bringing... had a hand in Dungeons & Dragons. The guy has kind of shaped RPGs and RPG gaming in ways that none of us can really understand. He's dabbled in video games. Guy's a literal living legend, if you'll pardon the terrible pun. Steve Jackson, very similar. I know Steve Jackson's work more from his time with the Fighting Fantasy books, Starship Traveller being one of my favourites. Found this in a charity shop for the grand total of 50p, and it kind of kick-started a love of these books that I've never really let go. So the way it kind of works is build a character, follow a path, make choices, decisions, blah blah blah, get into combat, etc, etc. Now, being younger, I didn't have the patience for doing the combat, because why should I? But no, I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, I've always had a very strong love of these books, starting with Starship Traveller. I mean, it's literally Star Trek. It's literally Star Trek, but you're Kirk, which is awesome. Then we got into stuff like Blood Bones, which is a boy-friendly book, and Talisman of Death, which was also a boy-friendly book. Got these from my local library, literally labelled for my use, which is quite nice of them. And to be honest, they're not in great nick. Not as in good nick as Appointment with Fear, which is definitely joint third for me. Well, maybe joint second. I think it's really good. This one's very different. Typically, these are all set in the same fantasy world, which is very cool. They're all set in the same one. There are a couple that aren't. So in the case of Starship Traveller, obviously not set in the general fantasy world of Fighting Fantasy. Same with, I think, probably my favourite series. But Appointment with Fear, you're a superhero called the Silver Crusader, and you get to pick what superpowers you have. I don't know what superpowers you get, actually. Super strength, energy blast, side powers, enhanced technological skill. Basically, you've got a big sausage brain. And yeah, those powers are relevant throughout the entire book, which is very cool. Very, very cool. I don't think Appointment with Fear has been turned into a video game yet. Some of these have. The major one being Warlock of Firetop Mountain, which I used to own. I think it's gone missing because I recently had to buy one of these back because I wanted it. It was my joint favourite. I've picked up stuff like Caverns of the Snow Witch. Haven't played this one too much. That being said, it is mint condition for a game book. Very cool. Citadel of Chaos, which I think is... No, not a... Well, you play as a wizard, which is cool. And obviously it's a bit of a descent into the Citadel of Chaos. All very typical fantasy stuff from like the 70s. 70s and 80s, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I mean, when this book came out, it was £1.50. Oh, how expensive. Yeah, Legend of Zangor. Not my favourite, quite frankly. The very name of the wall, Zagor. Zagor is a sequel. It's a sort of sequel to the original Warlock of Firetop Mountain, except now Zagor's a demon. Not my favourite. My favourites are Creature of Havoc, because you play this hideous monster on the front of it. And it's a very interesting experiment because you can't talk. You can't talk. You just kind of have to lumber around and hope that you get to the ending without being horribly mangled and hopefully alleviate the curse that's placed upon you. My second favourite is Armies of Death. Armies of Death, I think, is a sequel to Death Trap Dungeon. I could be horribly wrong. I mean, you're Alan Sear's only hope. But you raise an army, and you get into combat in the final sort of part of this book, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun having, like, your army batter against things like sewer goblins or town guards, robbers. It's kind of like bulk, front line of trolls, catapults, all sorts of things. Huge, massive battles. I'm a big fan of fantasy books that just kind of centre around one gigantic battle. The Icemark Chronicles, for example, very good. But yeah, here's the fun thing. Ian Livingstone did a new one. He did a new one, sort of tied to Death Trap Dungeon, which is probably one of the more famous ones that Ian Livingstone has ever worked on. But Blood Island's the new one, and it's exactly the same, and it's awesome, which is just super cool. I'm super excited to own this. This is going to be a slightly shorter video today. That's okay. It's just me kind of prattling on about how much I like fighting fantasy. I have been getting back into them. I have. Especially this. So I'm in the process of actually collecting some of the video games. I've got my first one, which is Death Trap Dungeon, which is a bit of a clone, bit of a Tomb Raider clone, which is cool. Doesn't control terribly. Absolutely throbbingly huge bestiary. Like, there's all of this is about all of the different AI, and it's all in colour, and it's so fucking good. It's really, really cool. Really, really cool, actually. It's super, super cool. I need to play this game. I need to play it properly. But yeah, Death Trap Dungeon. Interesting start. It's not like basically any other video game in the Fighting Fantasy franchise, because the bulk of those, from things like Sorcery to Warlock on Firetop Mountain, all of them typically focus around the choose your own adventure thing. This is a Tomb Raider clone, and it's pretty cool. You know, it's pretty cool. I haven't actually read the original Death Trap Dungeon, so I'm not too sure how involved it is. I know that Ian Livingstone was involved with this, which is really awesome. I've only played about an hour. It's nearly as clunky as Tomb Raider 2 is, but at the same time, it's got its own unique trappings. If you pardon the pun, its own unique trappings that make it its own thing. I think the game that I'm probably the most excited about is Inkle's. So Inkle might be Inkle, or that might be the engine. I don't know. It was Sorcery. Steve Jackson's Sorcery. Steve Jackson's Sorcery is easily my favourite set of books in the entirety of Fighting Fantasy. So whilst all these kind of share a similar world, or the same world, this one operates very similarly to how the Mass Effect trilogy works. So the Mass Effect trilogy allows you to carry over decisions, gameplay, character progression, all that stuff between books. So you have the same character as you do from the Shamutani Mountains all the way through to the Crown of Kings, which is sick. However, you can kind of start wherever. They're their own thing. But I think the ability to go from the Shamutanti Mountains to Care, City Port of Traps, to my favourite one, which is easily the Seven Serpents, and then into Crown of Kings, is very cool. It's called Sorcery because you're a wizard. There is a little spell book at the back, and a lot of these spells you can kind of use kind of at any given time, but it does place in rules where you're not allowed to keep looking at the book because, oh, no wizard would carry around their would carry around a flipping sod off huge spell book, and I'm like, maybe not, but he might carry around a scrap of paper with it written on there. So it's not cheating if I don't say it's cheating. I think I shared some of this with my grandmother back in the day, especially this. I do recall getting this around about the time she was around, and yeah, I think I probably talked your ear off about it back then quite a lot. Same way I'm talking your ear off about it now. But yeah, I'm hoping to get more fighting fantasy games as time kind of goes on. I know that especially now I've got back into it with the Dungeon of Blood on Blood Island, which is just a very cool book. Yeah, I think I'm going to be getting back into fighting fantasy. I might do a bit of an update on this, but it will probably focus around the video games, because that's what this channel is about. It's not about books typically, but it is about video games, and especially after I've had a bit of a taste with Death Trap Dungeon, I'm keen to see how games like Firetop Mountain are translated. I know the DS version, I think it's region locked to America, which is fucking annoying. But I'll look into that. If it is, I'll just find a way to hack a region free DS. We'll see. But yeah. Anyways, guys, that is me signing off for another week. Not too sure what we're going to talk about next week. We'll see. It'll be fun either way. I know this video is not going to get a huge amount of views, and that's okay. I'm just kind of hoping that if it trickles over to Ian Livingstone, you're doing a great job. Stick around, write some more stuff, and yeah, love your work. Love Steve Jackson's work as well, especially Sorcery. It's very good. That being said, Armies of Death, Creature of Havoc, and Starship Traveler. And Bloodbones. And Talisman of Death. All of them. I like all of them. Moving on. Anyways, that's it for me for another week, and I will see you next time.